They say that in Lagos, in Port Harcourt, in every city where concrete rises faster than compassion, there is a different kind of justice. The kind that doesn't wait for courts or lawyers. The kind that knows your bank account balance and the weight of your sins. This is the story of Chief Okonkwo Ndu, a man whose name meant warrior of life, though it dealt only in suffering and exploitation. And this is the story of how he learned that some tenants pay their rent in ways a landlord cannot survive. Chief Ndu's property sat in the cramped heart of Alakuko, Lagos, like a predator's den. 12 zinc-roofed rooms arranged in 2 rows facing each other across a narrow corridor of cracked concrete. The walls were moldy, the ceiling leaked when it rained, the plumbing barely worked, but the rent always increased. The chief himself lived in a 3-bedroom duplex in Magodo, Phase 2, where he could monitor his WhatsApp group chat with tenants and count his money in air-conditioned comfort. Every month, the chief would appear in his black Lexus SUV, honking impatiently until someone opened the compound gate. He would step out wearing designer agbada and Italian leather shoes, carrying his phone and a small notebook where he recorded every kobo owed. "Mama Chidi," he would shout, his voice cutting through the compound like a knife through jollof rice. "Where is my money? Do you think I'm running Father Christmas Foundation? Do you think because your husband died that I should forget you owe me 3 months rent plus light bill?" And Mama Chidi would emerge from her room, thin as the hunger spreading through Nigeria. Her Ankara wrapper faded from too many washings, her eyes red from crying or from the generator fumes. It was hard to tell the difference anymore. "Please, Chief, business is not moving. This recession is killing us. My son is sick. The hospital wants 50,000 for tests." "Your son?" The chief would laugh, scrolling through his phone. "Your son is not my concern. My money is my concern. You have until Friday, or you and your sick son will be on the street. I have 10 people waiting for this room." This was not an idle threat. The compound had seen many families thrown out, their belongings dumped in the gutter, while Okada riders slowed down to watch the drama. Chief Ndu would immediately rent the space to another desperate family, sometimes before the previous tenant's children stopped crying. There was Papa Emeka, who had been a Danfo driver until the accident that took his leg. The chief charged him extra because, as he said, "A one-legged man cannot run away when I come for my money." There was Auntie Ngozi, whose husband had beaten her so badly she fled with her 3 daughters to Chief Ndu's compound, only to discover she had jumped from one fire into another. There was young Obina, an apprentice mechanic at Ladipo Market, who sent every naira to his mother in Enugu, surviving on 1 meal of gari and groundnuts each day. And there was Chizzy. Chizzy was different. She arrived on a Tuesday evening during the rainy season, when PHCN had cut off the light and the sky was dark with clouds that promised flooding. Chief Ndu was in his Magodo duplex, eating his dinner of pounded yam and egusi soup while watching Africa Magic, prepared by the house girl he paid poorly and treated worse. But that is another story, a darker story, a one that his wife pretended not to know about. His phone rang, not a desperate tenant on WhatsApp, but an actual call. Chief Ndu frowned. He didn't like people who called instead of texting. It suggested they couldn't be ignored. "Yes," he answered, his mouth full. "I need a room." The voice was female, quiet but clear. "Do you have money?" Chief Ndu replied, putting down his fork. He was already calculating. Single woman, probably desperate. These were the easiest to exploit. "I have first month's rent. First month, last month, caution fee, agreement fee, agency fee, 200,000 total." "That's not what you advertised on Gigi." Young Obina paid only 80,000. Chief Endu's eyes narrowed. He did not like tenants who did research. He did not like tenants who asked questions. But he needed the money. He always needed money, though he had millions in 3 different banks and investments in real estate across Lagos. That was before. Prices have gone up. Dollar is now 1,500 naira. Everything is expensive. Of course, the woman said. I'll bring 100,000 cash tomorrow. 150, 100, or I'll rent somewhere else. I saw 3 other places today. Chief Ondu paused. Cash was good. Cash didn't leave traces. Fine, come tomorrow. Ask for room 7A behind Mama Chidi's side. Nothing works in that room. The toilet is broken. Not my problem. You want cheap, you get what you pay for. Everything is your problem, the woman said calmly, until it isn't. She hung up before the chief could respond. At first, the other tenants were wary of Chizzy. She kept to herself, leaving before dawn and returning after dark in a cakey napep. No one knew where she walked or what she did. She never joined the women at the compound tap when PHCN held light and water pumped. She never contributed to the compound WhatsApp group where tenants shared complaints that the chief ignored. But slowly, things began to change. It started with Mama Chidi's son. The boy had been coughing blood for weeks, his body hot with fever. The general hospital said he needed tests they couldn't afford. The chief had started sending threatening messages. Madam, this is business, not friendship. Pay up or pack out. Then one morning, the boy sat up and asked for food. His fever was gone. His breathing was clear. Mama Chidi wept and called it a miracle. But she also noticed something. A small black pouch tied to her son's bedpost, filled with herbs that smelled like something from the village, something older than hospitals. When she asked her son about it, he said a woman had come in the night, a woman with calm eyes who had given him hot tea and told him to sleep. Which woman? Auntie Chizzy, he said. But she looked different, like she was there, but also not there. Like when the TV has network problem and the picture is shaking. Next, Papa Emeka's phantom pain suddenly stopped. For 3 years, he had spent his small savings on painkillers and tramadol, sometimes mixing them with kai kai to sleep. Then one morning, he woke to find a smooth black stone placed on his mat, warm to the touch. When he held it, the pain vanished completely. He asked everyone in the compound. No one knew where it came from. But young Obina had seen Chizzy leaving Papa Emeka's room in the early morning darkness, moving silently like smoke. Then there was Auntie Ngozi's husband. He had tracked her down using her Facebook location, came drunk one night on Star Beer and Ogogoro, threatening to burn down the compound. The other tenants hid in their rooms, knowing the chief wouldn't come. He lived far away in Magodo, and besides, domestic issues were not his business, though he raised everyone's rent afterward for security concerns. But Auntie Ngozi's husband never returned after that first night. He was found the next morning sitting by the bus stop, rocking back and forth, his eyes wide and empty. When area boys asked what happened, he could only whisper, She showed me everything I've done. I saw myself. I was eating my own children, their joy, their future, everything." He left Lagos that afternoon. Somebody said he went back to the village and hasn't spoken since. 3 months after Chizzy's arrival, Chief Ondu announced another rent increase in the compound WhatsApp group. It was December, when people had Christmas money, when he could squeeze them dry before the new year. He started with Chizzy, sending a private message. "Your rent is now 150,000 per month, starting January, not negotiable." Chizzy was sitting outside her room when the message came, braiding a small girl's hair for free. She looked at her phone. then typed back, "Why?" Chief Endu's response came immediately. "Because I own the property, because Lagos is expensive, because if you don't like it, many people are waiting for your room. I paid 1 year in advance." That was old price. New year, new price, simple economics. Then he added, "Or maybe we can discuss alternative arrangements. A woman alone like you can come to an understanding." Chizzy stopped braiding. The little girl ran off to play. Chizzy stared at her phone for a long moment, then typed, "I will pay what we agreed. Nothing more, nothing less. Then you have 1 week to leave." "No," Chizzy typed, "you will leave." Chief Ondu was in his Magodo living room when he saw the message. He laughed, screenshot it, and sent it to his group chat with fellow landlords, titled "Funny Tenants." But then something strange happened. His phone began to heat up. Not just warm, burning hot. So hot he dropped it. When he picked it up, the screen showed something impossible. His own face, but wrong. Eyes too hollow, mouth too wide, and behind his reflection, shadows moving. He threw the phone across the room. That night he couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Chizzy's calm face. But underneath it, something else. Something with too many teeth and eyes that glowed like the red indicator light on a dying phone battery. "She has done juju on me," he told himself. "These village people and their nonsense. I will go to my own Babalawo. I will flush out this evil." But the next morning, strange things began to happen. Chief Endu woke to find money missing from his accounts. Not everything, that would be too obvious. Just random amounts, 50,000 here, 20 there. His bank apps showed the withdrawals, but he didn't remember making them. Had he been hacked? His password compromised? He changed everything. The disappearances continued. The next day, he began to see things. His Ring doorbell camera showed faces at his door. Faces of former tenants. Old Mama Obi, who had died in his compound because he refused to break her lease when her children tried to move her to better accommodation. Young Chezom, the girl who had drowned herself in the canal after the chief had made his special arrangement with her mother regarding rent. "I am going mad," he whispered, but he couldn't admit it because successful businessmen didn't believe in such things. That was for illiterate people, for those who still feared village superstitions. That night, Chief Ondu drove to Abeokuta to see a powerful Babalawo recommended by a business associate. "Someone has done something to me," the chief said, placing bundles of naira on the mat. "A woman in my property. You must break it." The Babalawo consulted his Ifa, threw his cowries, read his opal. His face grew pale. "Oga, I cannot help you," he said finally. "What do you mean? I'm paying you." "The thing living in your compound," the Babalawo said slowly, "is not something anyone can fight. It is older than Yoruba, older than Igbo, older than Nigeria itself. It is," he paused, "it is justice, true justice, the kind that doesn't need Supreme Court." "Justice?" The chief laughed bitterly. "What justice? I've done nothing wrong. I'm a landlord. I charge rent. This is Lagos. This is business." "There is business," the Babalawo said, "and then there is wickedness. There is collecting what you are owed, and then there is feeding on suffering like it is jollof rice. You have taken too much, Chief, and something has come to collect." Chief Ondu stopped going to the compound. He stayed in his Magodo duplex, drinking Hennessy and small stout, seeing faces in his smart TV screen that shouldn't be there. On the 7th night, there was a knock at his gate. He checked his Ring camera. It was her. "Go away," he shouted into the intercom. "This is private property. I will call police." The knock came again. Patient, steady. "I will destroy the compound. I will send area boys. I will make sure none of you ever rent in Lagos again." Knock. His hands shaking, Chief Endu opened the gate remotely. Chizzy stood there in the security light, but now he could see what had always been there, what he had been too blind with greed to notice. She was not quite solid. The light passed through her in places. Her shadow fell in the wrong direction, and behind her, gathered in the darkness beyond his gate, were others. Dozens, hundreds, the faces of every tenant he had ever exploited, every family he had thrown out, every child who had cried themselves to sleep in his leaking rooms. "Who are you?" he whispered. "I am rent," Chizzy said. "I am payment due. I am the final settlement." "I don't understand." "Yes, you do." She stepped forward, and the chief stumbled backward into his Italian tiled foyer. "You have taken and taken and taken. You have grown fat on misery. You have built this fine house on suffering. And now, the debt has come due." "What debt?" "I have money. I'll pay anything. I'll give them the compound. Free. I'll—" "Not money," Chizzy said. The others behind her began to whisper, their voices like Lagos traffic at midnight, endless and inescapable. "What you have taken from them, I will take from you, naira by naira, tear by tear, day by day. You will feel what they felt. You will live as they lived. You will know what it means to be powerless in Lagos." "No!" the chief screamed. "No! I'll change. I'll be better. I'll reduce the rent." "You will," Chizzy agreed. "But first, you will pay." She reached out and touched his forehead with one finger. The chief's world exploded into fire. They found Chief Indu the next morning, wandering Oshodi market in rags, his designer clothes gone, his shoes missing, his face gaunt. He tried to tell people who he was, but the words came out wrong, mixed with Yoruba and Pidgin he couldn't control. He tried to find his Magodo house, but he couldn't remember the address. Every road, every keke, every danfo led him back to the compound. The compound where he now lived in the smallest, dampest room. Room 7A Chizzy's old room. The compound where he woke every morning to impossible demands. Rent, light bill, water bill, security levy, sanitation fee. Where he worked all day, pushing wheelbarrows at Ladipo Market, offloading containers at Apapa Wharf, washing cars in traffic. But the money was never enough. Every naira he earned disappeared like data on MTN, inexplicably, impossibly. The other tenants watched him with a mixture of pity and satisfaction. Mama Chidi gave him food when he was hungry, though he had once threatened to throw a sick son into the street. Papa Emeka let him shelter when his roof leaked, though the chief had mocked his missing leg and charged him extra. But mostly, they just watched as he lived the life he had forced them to live. Chizzy came to collect rent every morning, dressed now in expensive clothes, driving a car just like his old Lexus. "Please," he would beg in a mixture of English and Pidgin. "I beg, I no get money. I dey sick. I need go hospital. I need—" "Your needs are not my concern," she would say, using his exact words. "My money is my concern. You have until tomorrow, or you will sleep outside. I have people waiting for this room." And sometimes, when he was too slow, or too weak, or simply too broken, she would make him sleep outside the compound gate, in the rain, in the Lagos cold, while area boys laughed and Okada riders took his picture, while she watched from the window, her face calm as still water, deep as justice. This went on for 1 year, then 2. The chief aged decades in those years. His hair went white, his back bent, his eyes, once so sharp and calculating, became dim and confused. The real Chief Undu, the one who had owned properties, who had lived in Magodo, who had driven a Lexus, was gone. Some said he had relocated abroad. Some said he had died of shame. Some said he had never existed at all, that there had only ever been this poor broken man in room 7A. this tenant who couldn't pay his rent. One morning, the tenant woke to find room 7A empty. The chief, the broken man who had once been chief, was gone. His few possessions remained, his worn mat, his worn wrapper, but he had vanished like morning mist in Harmattan. Where he go? Young Obina asked in pidgin. Chizzy, who was also preparing to leave, her bag packed, simply smiled. He has paid his debt. Now he is free. And you? Mama Chidi asked. Where you they go? Where I'm needed, Chizzy said. There are always men like the chief. In Lagos, in Abuja, in Port Harcourt, there are always debts to be collected. She walked out of the compound and down the street, and as she walked, she seemed to fade, becoming transparent in the morning light, until she was nothing but a shimmer, a heat wave on Lagos asphalt, a memory of justice. Because somewhere out there, in another compound, in another estate, another landlord was growing fat on suffering, and Cheesy was already walking their way.
Ensure to subscribe, like, and share to enable me create more amazing African folk tales.